Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2017 Ford Focus ST. Up front is a 2.0 liter turbocharged inline 4 and down below is a 6-speed manual transmission.
This video is sponsored by CarMarshal.com. If you'd like to support the channel, click the link down in the description below. CarMarshal.com advertises for over 100,000 vehicles across the US.
Now before we get into it, I have actually reviewed a Focus ST here on the channel. Longtime viewers will remember way back in the day I actually filmed a yellow one that was owned by my good friend Paul, the Turbo Twinkie as he called it. And so while this isn't 100% new territory for me, that review was almost 3 years ago. And so I think it's a good idea to refresh it. Plus this car has a stage 1 tune, so do not fret if you think I'm just re-uploading. I am definitely not. I definitely have a lot more to say about this car. But let's get back to that 2.0 liter turbocharged inline 4. Well, it is not the Ecoboost engine that you'll find in the Mustang or in the Ranger. That's actually the 2.3 that you'll also find in the RS. This is a smaller displacement, a 2 liter. And that being said, it puts out a decent amount of power. It's nothing too crazy. I mean, this thing is not going to rip the doors off of a Lamborghini out of the box. It's not going to do that, but it definitely does have a decent amount of torque, especially for a 2 liter. And of course, it's boosted. Like I mentioned earlier, this does have a Cobb Stage 1 tune on it, and basically what that is an air intake and a motor mount. The air intake, that's pretty standard practice, but the motor mount is something interesting. Supposedly, because of the rear motor mount from the factory, when you really get on the power, the wheels start to hop, you sort of break traction, and it's not a great time. Well, the Cobb Stage 1 changes that, gives you a solid rear motor mount, and so you get a little bit more vibration down low. Cruising, you don't really notice it, but it decreases that wheel hop. It no longer jumps around, it just puts the power down, and I really, really like that. And so the owner, Ethan, which thank you, Ethan, for letting me do this review. Oh, another Focus ST owner. He told me that you really get into the power around 5. So second gear. That definitely is a lot of fun. You really do start to feel that power right around 5. It's not a kick in the chest, but it's definitely going, gone. Oh man, it's definitely fun to get into that boost. And what's hilarious is that it is an upped boost pressure. Of course, it's putting up more PSI than it does stock, but the car still tells you to upshift for fuel economy. So just ignore that. But the Cobb really does open up this car. It really just makes it a little bit more alive, gives it that little bit more of the edge, that edge that they sand off from the factory in order to meet emissions regulations and all that stuff and fuel consumption numbers. That shaved edge becomes hardened again and rigid, and I really, really like that. It really feels more alive. Straight line acceleration, there is a little bit of torque steer, which is fine. You're always going to get that out of front wheel drive cars. But if you're used to driving rear wheel drive, this might come as a little bit of a shock. Under hard power, the car likes to turn. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed manual transmission. Nothing too crazy here. The knob and linkages itself feel pretty stiff. Now, my big complaint with the last ST that I drove was the clutch being super heavy. That's not the case here. So it must have been something fluky with that yellow one, because this one, the clutch is nice and light. It's super simple. It's easy. And I really, really like it. And I'm driving through beautiful trees right now at nearly sunset. Oh, this is a fun, fun car. Got some twisties. So let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 physical gauges. On the left is my tachometer, on the right is my speedometer, then down in the middle, we have my coolant temperature and my fuel. Up above that, I do get a tiny little information gauge. Nothing really too crazy here. It is what it is. It's giving me my MPG. I can go up and look at my trip timer, distance till empty, fuel economy, stuff like that. It's not quite to the level of Ford performance, where the Mustang will tell you boost pressure, if it's supercharged, air intake, temperatures, like everything you want to know, you can know with the Mustang. It's not quite the case here with the ST, and I wish that they gave you a couple more gauges, a little bit more information. On the steering wheel on the left, I have my controls for that gauge screen. Then I have my cruise control options, and on the right, I have my volume and voice control options. To the left of me, I just have my headlight switches, dimmer switches, stuff like that. And then on the door, I have my window switches, lock and unlock. In the center, I do have 3 more gauges for oil temperature, boost pressure, and oil pressure. I like these gauges. My big gripe is that the boost gauge isn't really a real boost gauge, and the fact that it doesn't show you vacuum. It just goes 0 through 30. There's no negative side of the boost gauge. If you guys know anything about turbos produce vacuum and then they produce boost. Well, this gauge is just showing you the boost, which is kind of gimmicky. It's okay. It's just, I wish they gave you an actual boost gauge. Then down below that, we get a tiny, tiny, whittle screen. That's because this is the ST1. This is the more base model of the ST, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And so it's not a touch screen. It is just a small screen showing me that my device is connected. Big whoop. Stuff like that. It does the job. It's, you know, it is what it is. Down below that, we get all of our radio controls. You know, radio, sound, clock, phone, all that stuff, you know, all that basic stuff. Then we have our climate controls. Ford does this really funny thing where they have 2 buttons, but it like makes up one person. So you could direct the air wherever you want, but it's just shown on one person, which is kind of funny. Then we have a little coin holder, a 12-volt outlet, traction control off, and the shifter. Something interesting I just found on accident. This traction control button, which we all agree that's the traction control. Let me see if I can get both in shot. Ready? When I hit it, sport mode. It doesn't say traction control. It just says sport mode when you turn this off. Weirdest thing. Like I said, the shifter is kind of bulky. It's not my favorite shifter in the world. I think it's a little bit larger than it needs to be. That being said, I'm not really super complaining about it. It is what it is. Then we have 2 cup holders. Now we have to talk about the seats, because this also was my other big gripe with the Focus ST, and that was the seats. The seats were hard and uncomfortable. Well, so the ST1 is the more base model, and it doesn't come with the Recaro seats. In my own personal opinion, I don't like the Recaro seats offered from Ford. They're made for 120-pound guys, and I don't know if you have eyes or not, but I'm not one of those. So if you just freshly ended your month-long famine, by all means, you'll fit great in a Ford Focus ST seat. Which that was an Edge ST that just passed us. But since these are actually the base model seats, I actually fit in the car a lot better than I did in the ST2 seats, the higher trim level seats, the Recaro seats. This is one of those classic points where base model's actually better in my opinion. But speaking of seats, this is of course a hatchback, so it has back seats. Let's do a back seat review. All right, so I'm in the back of the 2017 Ford Focus ST. Nothing really too crazy back here. The seats are a little bit stiff. I don't seem to get a center console. I really don't get any amenities at all back here. Of course, I have power windows. But if you do have pets, you can get a pet hammock for the back seat. It is aftermarket, but I've never seen one in a car before, and Ethan has one, so that's kind of neat. But other than that, really nothing going on back here. I get one light that I don't even think I can personally turn on. Very bare bones basic back seats. It is what it is. Now let's talk about the looks. I really like this color red of the ST. I think it really looks good. I think it really matches the ST badges, because all ST badges are red. They don't color match it to the car. It's just that this is red and red, and I really like that because the steering wheel is a little bit of red, you know, stuff like that. It really all goes together. The wheels are fine. The wheels are okay. Ethan actually plans on probably powder coating these black because the previous owner seemed to really love those curbs. And so they will be black eventually, and I think that'll make the car look a lot better. But overall, I have to say, I really like the Focus ST. I think this car is really good. And I'm happy about that because I really wasn't the biggest fan of them when I first reviewed them. But this, with the Cobb Stage 1, with a couple of tweaks, a little bit newer than the last one I drove, I think it overall works really well. I love the seats now. I love the power now. And overall, it just genuinely feels like a different car. It feels a lot better. And that makes me so happy, because all it means is that if you have a Focus ST and you're not a big fan of it, switch out the seats and add a little bit of power, and you'll be a lot bigger of a fan. And I mean, come on, you cannot deny those boost noises. And so now, I'll leave a link at the end of the video. I've reviewed sort of the trio of Focuses and Fiestas. I've driven the Fiesta ST, the Focus RS, and the Focus ST. And I have to say, they're all phenomenal cars. Really, really phenomenal. If you cannot afford a Focus ST, look at the Fiesta STs. If you're a struggling student, a college student, and you want a fun car, look at Fiesta STs. It's not like you're not used to small spaces. They're about the size of an eighth of a dorm room. And so the Fiesta ST is where you should look. But if you have a little bit of extra money, you want the extra room, you want the extra power, look at the Focus STs. I mean, this thing really is a great car. And it's a shame that they're no longer importing them to the US. Overseas, they're still getting the STs, but we got cut. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys learned something about the 2017 Ford Focus ST. Huge thank you to Ethan for letting me review his ST. This car is so much fun. It's really a well-handling, well-performing car. And I think as a daily driver, if you want something sporty, it does not get better than this for this price. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.
There goes a sight from my soul.